Commander Jake Martinez stood at the observation deck of the research station, watching the alien ship approach. The massive vessel looked like a floating mountain made of metal and crystal. It was 10 times bigger than their own ship, the UES Horizon. Jake had been waiting for this moment his entire career, first contact with alien life. After 300 years of searching the stars, humanity was finally meeting their neighbors. "Commander, they're requesting permission to dock," said Communications Officer Nick Davis from behind him. His voice was steady, but Jake could hear the excitement underneath. "Granted," Jake replied. He turned to face his crew. "Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Stay calm, be respectful, and let me do the talking." The docking process took 2 hours. The alien ship moved with careful precision, its advanced technology making their own systems look primitive. Jake watched through the cameras as strange mechanical arms extended from the visitor ship to create a sealed connection between the vessels. Dr. Lisa Webb joined Jake at the airlock. She carried her medical scanner and looked nervous. "I've never examined an alien before," she admitted. "None of us have," Jake said with a smile. "We'll figure it out together." The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. 2 figures stepped through, and Jake got his first look at intelligent alien life. The first alien was tall and covered in what looked like thick gray armor plating. Its head was long and narrow, with 4 eyes that glowed yellow. When it moved, Jake could hear the soft scraping of metal on metal. The second alien was completely different. It looked like it was made of living crystal, with a body that seemed to shift colors in the light. Its surface was hard and sharp like broken glass formed into the shape of a person. "Greetings," said the first alien in perfect English. Its voice was deep and rumbling. "I am Ambassador Kethavar of the Zelthak people. This is Science Officer Uranel of the Vorthak. We represent the Galactic Alliance." Jake stepped forward and extended his hand. "Welcome aboard. I'm Commander Jake Martinez, representing humanity and the United Earth Systems." Kethavar looked at Jake's extended hand with confusion. After a moment, he reached out with his own hand, which was covered in the same gray armor as the rest of his body. When they shook hands, Jake felt like he was grabbing a piece of warm metal. "Your customs are interesting," Kethavar said. "We have studied your transmissions, but seeing you in person is different." "Different how?" Jake asked. The 2 aliens looked at each other. Uranel spoke for the first time, her voice sounding like wind chimes. "You appear to have no natural protection. No armor, no shells, no hardened skin. How do you survive, Doctor?" Webb stepped forward. "Perhaps we should start with the medical examination. It's standard procedure for first contact, to make sure we're not carrying anything harmful to each other." "An excellent idea," Kethavar agreed. "Your safety is our primary concern." They moved to the medical bay where Dr. Webb had prepared her equipment. Jake noticed that both aliens moved carefully as if they were worried about breaking something. Their heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. "Please have a seat," Dr. Webb said, gesturing to the examination table. Jake sat down and rolled up his sleeve. Dr. Webb began her scans, running the medical scanner over his arm. The device beeped softly as it recorded his vital signs and body structure. The aliens watched with growing alarm. Uranel's crystalline body seemed to dim as she studied the scanner's display. Kethavar's yellow eyes grew brighter, which Jake was beginning to think meant he was worried. "This cannot be correct," Uranel said, her voice sharp with concern. "Your outer layer is less than 1 millimeter thick, and underneath, there is no protective plating at all." "That's right," Dr. Webb said, continuing her scans. "Human skin is relatively thin, but it's quite effective for what we need." "What you need," Kethavar repeated. "But how do you protect your vital organs? Your bones appear to be hollow in places. Your muscle tissue has no armored coating. Even your skull." He paused, staring at the scanner readings. "Even your skull is barely thick enough to contain your brain." Jake looked at Dr. Webb, who seemed puzzled by the alien's reaction. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "Commander," Kethavar said slowly, "in all our travels across the galaxy, we have never encountered a species so vulnerable. Every intelligent race we know has evolved some form of natural protection. Armor plating, crystalline shells, hardened carapaces, metal-infused bones, something to keep them alive in a hostile universe. But humans have none of these things, Uranel added. How did your species survive long enough to develop intelligence? How did you build cities without being destroyed by predators? How did you achieve spaceflight when a simple fall could kill you? Dr. Webb finished her scans and looked at the results. Everything appeared normal for a human, but she was beginning to understand why the aliens were so concerned. We adapt, Jake said simply. We use tools, we work together, we solve problems. That's how humans have always survived. But your homeworld, Kethavar said, surely it must be a paradise world. No dangerous weather, no aggressive life forms, no natural disasters. Otherwise, your species would have been extinct long ago. Jake and Dr. Webb exchanged glances. Earth was many things, but a paradise world was not one of them. Actually, Dr. Webb said carefully, Earth is quite dangerous. We have extreme weather, large predators, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, floods. She stopped talking when she saw the alien's reaction. Kethavar had taken a step backward, and Uranel's crystalline body was now pulsing with a deep red color. You come from a death world, Uranel whispered. And you have no natural armor. This is impossible. Jake was beginning to realize that this first contact was not going the way anyone had expected. The aliens were not impressed by human technology or intelligence. They were terrified by human vulnerability. Perhaps, Kethavar said in a shaky voice, we should continue this discussion in a more protected environment. Your species clearly requires special care. Commander Jake Martinez could see that the aliens were very worried about humans. They kept staring at him and Dr. Lisa Webb like they were looking at something that might break at any moment. Ambassador Kethavar had even suggested moving to a safer location on their ship. That won't be necessary, Jake said politely. But if you're concerned about human durability, perhaps we could show you what we're capable of. Show us? Uranel asked, her crystalline body flickering with nervous colors. You mean demonstrate your fragility? Jake smiled. Something like that. Dr. Webb, could you ask Security Chief Ryan Cole to meet us in Training Bay 2? A few minutes later, they were walking through the corridors toward the training facility. The aliens moved very slowly and carefully, as if they expected the floor to collapse under their weight. Jake noticed that Kethavar kept looking at the walls, probably wondering how such thin metal could protect humans from the vacuum of space. This is our main training facility, Jake explained as they entered a large room filled with exercise equipment, practice weapons, and obstacle courses. We use it to keep our crew in good physical condition. Ryan Cole was already there, wearing his standard workout clothes. He was a big man with broad shoulders and arms covered in old scars. He looked completely normal to Jake, but both aliens stepped backward when they saw him. Ryan, our guests are interested in human physical capabilities, Jake said. Could you show them some basic exercises? Sure thing, Commander, Ryan said with a grin. He walked over to the weightlifting area and picked up what looked like a heavy metal bar. Kethavar made a worried sound. Should he not wear protective gear first? Armor plating, a safety harness? He'll be fine, Jake assured him. Ryan began lifting the weights above his head. The aliens watched in fascination as his muscles worked under his thin skin. To them, it probably looked like watching machinery operate without any protective covering. Remarkable, Uranel whispered. His internal structures are completely visible. We can see every muscle fiber contracting. How does he prevent damage to those exposed tissues? We don't really prevent damage, Dr. Webb explained. We just heal from it quickly. As if to prove her point, Ryan moved to a different exercise. He began doing pull-ups on a high bar. On his 15th repetition, he lost his grip and fell 8 feet to the padded floor below. He landed hard with a loud thump. Both aliens made alarm sounds and rushed toward him as fast as their heavy bodies could move. Kethavar was already reaching for what looked like a medical device on his belt. Ryan just rolled over and stood up, brushing dust off his clothes. Whoops, lost my grip there. He jumped up and grabbed the bar again, continuing his exercise. The aliens froze in place, staring at him. He fell from a significant height, Kethvar said slowly. That impact should have cracked his protective shell. Where are his injuries? I'm fine, Ryan said, still hanging from the bar. Just a little bruise, maybe? A little bruise? Urinel repeated. You struck the ground with considerable force. Any reasonable being would require immediate medical attention, possibly surgical repair of their outer plating. Ryan dropped from the bar and walked over to them. Watch this, he said. He held out his hand and showed them his palm. There was a small cut across it, probably from gripping the rough bar. Blood was seeping slowly from the wound. The aliens stared at the red liquid in horror. He's leaking internal fluids, Kethvar exclaimed. This is a medical emergency. Relax, Ryan said. He pressed his thumb against the cut for a few seconds, then wiped the blood away with a towel. The bleeding had already stopped. See? Good as new. But the wound, Urinel said, her voice shaking. It should require sealing compounds, healing accelerators, perhaps replacement plating. It'll heal on its own in a day or two, Ryan explained. Human bodies fix themselves automatically. Dr. Webb stepped forward with her medical scanner. Here, let me show you something interesting. She ran the scanner over Ryan's arms and displayed the results on a nearby screen. These white lines you see are old fractures, she explained, pointing to Ryan's bones on the display. This arm was broken twice. This leg was fractured here and here. His ribs show signs of multiple impacts. The aliens studied the scans with growing amazement and terror. All of these injuries should have been fatal, Kethvar said. How is he still alive? They healed, Ryan said simply. Bones grow back together, cuts close up, bruises fade away. It's just what bodies do. Engineer Amy Foster entered the training. They carrying a toolkit. She was a small woman with short red hair and grease stains on her uniform. Hey, Commander, she called out. I need to adjust the temperature controls in here. The plasma conduit is running hot again. She walked over to a wall panel and opened it, revealing glowing energy lines that pulsed with dangerous-looking light. Jake could see the aliens tense up as she reached inside with her bare hands. Careful, Amy, Jake warned. I know what I'm doing, she replied. But as she worked, her hand slipped and brushed against one of the hot conduits. There was a small flash and the smell of burned skin. Ow! Amy jerked her hand back and shook it. That stings. She looked at her palm, which now had a red burn mark across it. Well, that's going to hurt for a while. The aliens were speechless. Urinel's body had turned a deep purple color, and Kethvar's eyes were glowing so bright they lit up the entire room. You touched a plasma conduit, Kethvar said in a whisper. With no protection, the energy output of that system would instantly kill most beings. Amy shrugged and closed the panel. Yeah, they run pretty hot. I should have been more careful. She picked up her tools and headed for the door. See you later, Commander. After she left, the training bay was completely silent. The aliens stood perfectly still, processing what they had just witnessed. Let me understand this correctly, Urinel finally said. Your species regularly sustains injuries that would be fatal to armored beings. You fall from heights, burn yourselves on energy sources, cut yourselves on sharp objects, and you just continue functioning? Pretty much, Ryan said. That's just life. Your bodies repair themselves without technological assistance? That's right. And you consider this normal? Jake, Ryan, and Dr. Webb all nodded. The aliens looked at each other for a long moment. Then Kethvar spoke in a voice filled with awe and terror. We need to contact the Galactic Alliance immediately. Science Officer Urinel could not sleep. Her crystalline body kept changing colors as she thought about what she had seen in the human training facility. Every time she closed her optical sensors, she saw the image of the human female touching the plasma conduit with her bare hand and walking away. It was impossible, but she had witnessed it herself. The next morning, she requested a meeting with the human historian. Ambassador Kethvar joined her, his armor plating still showing stress fractures from the previous day's shock. We need to understand your species better, Urinel told Commander Jake Martinez. Perhaps your historical records could help explain how you developed such unusual survival capabilities. Of course, Jake replied. Dr. Ben Clark is our chief historian. He knows more about human development than anyone on this station. They met in the archive chamber, a room filled with displays showing images and data from Earth's history. Dr. Ben Clark was a thin man with gray hair and excited eyes. He seemed very happy to have an audience for his favorite subject. Where would you like to start? Ben asked cheerfully. Human prehistory? The development of civilization? Our expansion into space? Begin with your world, Kethvar said. We need to understand the environment that shaped your species. Ben activated a large display showing a blue and green planet. This is Earth, our homeworld. Beautiful, isn't it? The aliens studied the image carefully. Urinel ran some quick calculations on the atmospheric composition and gravitational force. Your planet appears to have extreme weather patterns, she observed. These white formations, are they permanent ice structures? Oh no, Ben laughed. Those are just clouds. Earth's weather changes constantly. We have storms that can destroy entire cities, temperature swings of 50 degrees in a single day, and seasonal changes that alter the entire landscape. He switched to a new image showing a massive spiral of clouds. This is a hurricane. Winds, up to 200 miles per hour. They happen regularly during certain seasons. Kethavar's armor plates rattled softly. And humans live through these events? Sure, Ben said casually. We just build stronger houses and wait for them to pass. Sometimes we evacuate to safer areas, but mostly we just deal with it. The next image showed a massive explosion of rock and fire. This is a volcanic eruption. The mountain basically explodes and shoots molten rock into the air. The lava can flow for miles, burning everything in its path. How do you survive such catastrophes? Urinel asked. We move away from the dangerous areas, Ben explained. Then we come back and rebuild once it's safe. Some of our greatest cities are built on old volcanic soil because it's very fertile for growing food. You return to the area of devastation? Kethvar could not hide his amazement. Voluntarily? The soil is really good for farming, Ben repeated as if this explained everything. He continued the presentation, showing images of earthquakes that split the ground open, floods that covered entire regions, and ice ages that buried continents under miles of frozen water. Now, early humans had to survive all of this with no technology. Ben continued enthusiastically. No shelter except what they could build with their hands. No tools except rocks and sticks. No protection except their own bodies. The aliens were completely silent. Here's where it gets interesting, Ben said, switching to images of early human ancestors. Our species developed during one of the most dangerous periods in Earth's history. Massive predators, extreme climate changes, volcanic activity, and asteroid impacts. He showed them pictures of giant cats with teeth like swords, bears twice, the size of modern ones, and other creatures that looked like living nightmares. Humans learned to hunt these animals, Ben said proudly. We didn't just avoid them. We tracked them down and killed them for food. You hunted creatures larger and stronger than yourselves? Urinel's voice was barely a whisper. We're persistence hunters, Ben explained. We're not the fastest or strongest, but we never give up. We can run for hours without stopping. We follow our prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Then we move in for the kill. Kethvar was making soft clicking sounds, which Jake had learned meant he was very distressed. But surely, the alien ambassador said, once your species developed intelligence, you created safer environments for yourselves? Ben laughed. Not exactly. Let me show you some of our recreational activities. The next series of images showed humans jumping out of aircraft, climbing vertical rock faces, racing vehicles at incredible speeds, and fighting each other in organized competitions. These are sports, Ben explained. Things we do for fun. For fun? Urinel repeated. This is called skydiving. You jump out of an aircraft at high altitude and fall toward the ground at terminal velocity. Then you open a parachute at the last moment and land safely. And if the parachute fails, well, then you die, Ben said matter-of-factly. But that doesn't happen very often. Maybe 1 in 1,000 times. 1 in 1,000, Kethvar whispered. And humans do this voluntarily? Millions of humans, Ben confirmed. It's very popular. He showed them images of humans boxing, playing rugby, skiing down mountains, and surfing massive waves. This is football, he said, displaying a game where large humans crashed into each other repeatedly. The goal is to carry a ball to the opposite end of the field while the other team tries to stop you by tackling you to the ground. Tackling, knocking you down with physical force. Sometimes players get injured, but they usually keep playing anyway. Captain Steve Mitchell entered the archive chamber carrying a datapad. He was a sturdy man with weathered skin and calm eyes. Sorry to interrupt, Steve said, but I thought our guests might be interested in the geological survey of Earth, just completed. Absolutely, Ben said excitedly. Steve's been mapping our planet's geological activity. Steve activated his datapad and projected a three-dimensional model of Earth. As you can see, our planet sits on top of several massive tectonic plates that are constantly moving and grinding against each other. The model showed the planet's surface cracking and shifting like a broken shell. This creates pretty regular earthquakes, Steve continued in a conversational tone. We get thousands of them every year. Most are small, but occasionally we get big ones that can level entire cities. He pointed to several areas on the map. These are our major volcanic systems. This one here is Yellowstone. It's what we call a supervolcano. When it erupts, it'll probably kill millions of people and change the climate of the entire planet for several years. And you live near these systems? Uranel asked. Well, yeah, Steve replied. Most of our major cities are built in geologically active areas. Better soil, natural harbors, mineral resources. You learn to work with what you have, but the danger... Everything's dangerous, Steve said with a shrug. You just take reasonable precautions and get on with your life. The aliens stood in complete silence, processing everything they had learned. Their understanding of human vulnerability was changing into something else entirely. Finally, Kethvar spoke in a voice filled with awe and terror. Your species was forged in conditions that would destroy most civilizations. You face dangers that we would consider existential threats, and you call them weather and sports. You have no natural armor because you learned to survive without it in an environment so hostile that we classify it as uninhabitable. Is Earth really that bad? Ben asked, genuinely curious. Uranel's crystalline body pulsed with deep red light. According to our databases, your world is classified as a Class 12 death world. We use it as an example of planets that cannot support intelligent life. Huh, Steve said thoughtfully. That explains why we haven't met any neighbors yet. The peaceful meeting was interrupted by loud alarms echoing through both ships. Red warning lights flashed in the corridors as Communications Officer Nick Davis rushed into the archive chamber. Commander Martinez, Nick said urgently. We have multiple contacts approaching fast. They're not responding to our signals. Jake immediately activated his communication device. All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill. Ambassador Kethvar's armor plating began to glow with defensive energy. We must retreat to our ship's core immediately. The shielded chambers can protect us from whatever weapons they possess. Who are they? Science Officer Uranel asked, her crystalline body turning dark blue with fear. Nick checked his scanner. The computer identifies them as Krillian raiders, 5 ships heavily armed. They're known for using molecular acid weapons and quantum disruptors. Both aliens made sounds of terror. Kethvar grabbed Jake's arm with his metal-covered hand. Commander, you must come with us to safety immediately. Krillian weapons dissolve armor plating in seconds. They use quantum disruptors that can tear apart shield generators. No species has ever survived a direct attack from their weapons. Thank you for the offer, Jake said calmly, but we need to protect our ship. Protect it? Uranel's voice was high with panic. With what? You have no armor, no shields, nothing to stop their weapons. You will all be killed instantly. Jake was already moving toward the bridge. We'll figure something out. Nick, get everyone to their positions. The aliens watched in horror as the humans calmly prepared for battle. Instead of running for protected shelters, they were moving toward their duty stations. Dr. Lisa Webb headed for the medical bay. Engineer Amy Foster went to the engine room. Security Chief Ryan Cole armed himself with simple projectile weapons. "This is suicide," Kethvar whispered. Pilot Kate Johnson was already at the helm when Jake reached the bridge. She was a small woman with quick hands and steady nerves. Her fingers moved across the control panel like she was playing music. "5 ships coming in fast," Kate reported. "They're in attack formation. Estimate 30 seconds until they're in weapons range." "Evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. The ship began to move in ways that made the aliens sick. Kate threw the vessel into sharp turns and sudden stops that would have crushed most beings against the walls. But the humans just held on and kept working. The first Krillian attack came without warning. Green streams of molecular acid shot through space toward the human ship. The aliens expected to see the hull dissolve instantly. Instead, Kate simply moved the ship out of the way. "They missed," she announced calmly. "Missed?" Kethvar could not believe what he was seeing. "How did you avoid weapons traveling at light speed?" "I saw where they were aiming and moved," Kate explained, spinning the ship through another impossible turn. The Krillian ships fired again, this time with quantum disruptors that could tear apart the strongest shields. The purple energy beams cut through space like deadly lightning. Kate dodged those too. "This is impossible," Uranel said, watching the tactical display. "No ship can move fast enough to avoid directed energy weapons." "She's not avoiding the weapons," Jake explained. "She's avoiding where the weapons are going to be. Kate can read their targeting systems and predict their firing patterns." More attacks came from different directions. Acid weapons, disruptor beams, and kinetic projectiles all aimed at the human ship. Kate danced between them all, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. "Their targeting computers can't keep up," Kate reported. "They're designed to fight armored ships that move in predictable patterns. They don't know how to handle something this flexible." One of the Krillian ships tried a different approach. It fired a wide spread of acid that covered a large area of space. There was no way to dodge it completely. Some of the green liquid splashed against the ship's hull. The aliens waited for the ship to dissolve. Instead, Engineer Dan Roberts reported from his station. "Hull breach in Section 7, Dan said matter-of-factly. "The acid ate through about 6 inches of outer plating. I'm suiting up to do repairs." "Suiting up?" Kethvar asked in horror. "You're going outside into the battle?" "Someone has to fix it," Dan replied. He was already putting on his spacesuit, which looked impossibly thin to the aliens. 10 minutes later, Dan was outside the A ship with a welding torch, calmly repairing the damage while weapons fire streaked past him. A quantum disruptor beam passed within 10 feet of his position. He didn't even look up from his work. "The human is performing maintenance in the middle of combat," Uranel observed, her voice filled with disbelief. "While beings are actively trying to kill him, Dan's good at his job," Jake said simply. The battle continued for another hour. The Krillian ships tried every weapon in their arsenal. They fired from multiple angles, used spread patterns, even tried ramming attacks. Nothing worked. The human ship was too fast, too unpredictable, too flexible. During the fighting, medic Julie Barnes moved freely through the ship, treating minor injuries. A piece of debris had cut Nick's forehead. Some falling equipment had bruised Kate's shoulder. Julie patched them up quickly, and they kept working. "The injured humans are not seeking shelter," Kethvar observed. "They continue fighting while wounded." "It's just a scratch," Nick said, touching the bandage on his head. "Nothing to worry about." The turning point came when one of the Krillian ships made a mistake. It flew too close while trying to get a better firing angle. Kate immediately turned toward it instead of away. "What are you doing?" Uranel screamed. "You're flying directly at them." "They're not expecting it," Kate replied calmly. She was right. The Krillian ship tried to turn away, but it was too slow. The human ship passed underneath it at incredible speed. Ryan Cole fired their simple projectile weapons at close range, aiming for critical systems he had identified during the battle. The alien weapons were designed to dissolve armor and destroy shields, but the human ship had neither. Ryan's basic metal projectiles punched through the Krillian hull and destroyed their weapon systems from the inside. "Target neutralized," Ryan reported. The other Krillian ships seemed confused. Their ultimate weapons had failed completely. One of their ships was disabled by weapons they considered primitive. The humans were not only surviving, they were winning. After another 20 minutes of failed attacks, the Krillian raiders gave up. They retreated into hyperspace, leaving the area completely. "Well, that was exciting," Kate said, settling back in her chair. The aliens emerged from their defensive positions to find the human crew already cleaning up. Dan had finished his repairs and was back inside. Julie had treated all the minor injuries. Amy was checking the engine systems for damage. "How?" Kethavar asked weakly. "How did you survive weapons that destroy entire fleets?" "We didn't have anything for their weapons to destroy," Jake explained. "No armor to dissolve, no shields to disrupt. They were fighting something they had never encountered before. But the danger, the risk. Every job has risks," Julie said, bandaging a small cut on her own hand. "You just do your best and hope for good luck." She looked at the aliens' shocked faces and smiled. "Don't worry, you get used to it." The aliens looked at each other in complete silence. Everything they thought they knew about warfare, about survival, about what it meant to be vulnerable, had just been turned upside down. "We need to contact the Galactic Alliance immediately," Uranel said quietly. "And tell them what?" Kethavar asked. "That we have just witnessed the impossible," she replied, "and that everything we thought we knew about strength and weakness is wrong." 3 hours after the battle ended, Ambassador Kethavar sat in the conference room aboard the UES Horizon, staring at his hands. His metal armor plating was still warm from the stress of combat, even though he had spent the entire fight hiding. In the safest part of his ship, Commander Jake Martinez entered with Dr. Lisa Webb, both looking completely normal. Jake had a small bandage on his cheek where a piece of debris had scratched him, but he moved like nothing had happened. "Are you feeling all right?" Jake asked, sitting across from the alien ambassador. "I am physically undamaged," Kethavar replied, slowly. "But I fear my understanding of the universe has been completely destroyed." Science Officer Uranel joined them, her crystalline body dim and colorless. She had been very quiet since watching the humans defeat the Krillian raiders. "We need to discuss what happened today," she said in a voice barely above a whisper. "The battle?" Jake asked. "Our crew performed very well. No serious injuries, minimal damage to the ship. I'd call it a success." "A success?" Kethavar repeated. "You faced weapons that have destroyed entire civilizations, and you call it a success." Dr. Webb activated her medical scanner and showed them the results of her latest examination. "I think I understand what's been confusing you about human biology. You've been thinking about it the wrong way." She displayed a detailed image of human anatomy on the conference room screen. "You see soft skin and think vulnerable. You see thin bones and think fragile. You see exposed organs and think defenseless. Because that is what those things mean," Uranel said. "Not for humans," Dr. Webb continued. "Our soft skin can stretch and heal without leaving permanent damage. Our thin bones are flexible enough to bend instead of breaking. Our exposed organs can function even when damaged." She switched to comparison, images showing alien anatomy next to human anatomy. "Your armor plating is strong, but once it breaks, you cannot repair it quickly. Your hardened bones never bend, so they shatter under pressure. Your protected organs stop working the moment their defenses fail." Kethavar studied the images carefully. "You are saying that our strengths are actually weaknesses?" "Not weaknesses," Jake said gently. "Just different solutions to the same problem. You evolved armor to protect yourselves from danger. We evolved the ability to survive damage." "But why?" Uranel asked. "Why would evolution choose such a dangerous path?" Dr. Webb smiled. "Because it works. Armor can be broken, but adaptation is forever. You can destroy our tools, our weapons, our cities, even our bodies. But you cannot destroy our ability to survive, learn, and overcome." Captain Steve Mitchell entered the conference room carrying the final geological report he had been working on. He looked tired but satisfied. "Just finished the planetary surveys," Steve announced. "Earth really is as bad as you said. Class 12, Death World, constant natural disasters, extreme weather, massive predators. No wonder we turned out so tough. He sat down and looked at the aliens with genuine curiosity. I've been thinking about your worlds. What are they like? Safe? Kethvar said immediately. Stable weather, predictable geological activity, carefully managed ecosystems. We have built perfect environments where nothing dangerous can threaten our people. That sounds nice, Steve said. But how do you handle emergencies? What happens when something goes wrong? The aliens looked at each other uncomfortably. We have protocols, Uranel said. Safety procedures, protective equipment, emergency shelters. But what if those fail? They do not fail, Kethavar replied. We have made them foolproof. Nothing is foolproof, Steve said with a laugh. Eventually, something always goes wrong. That's just the nature of existence. Not in properly designed systems, Uranel insisted. Jake leaned forward. What happens to your people if they face something unexpected, something you haven't prepared for? The aliens were quiet for a long moment. They die, Kethvar finally admitted. If our defenses fail, if our protocols do not work, if we encounter something we have not planned for, we die. And that's why you need us, Dr. Webb said softly. The conference room fell completely silent. The weight of that statement settled over everyone present. The galaxy is vast, Jake continued. There are threats out there that no amount of armor or planning can stop. When those threats appear, you need people who can adapt, who can survive the impossible, who can find solutions where none exist. People like humans, Uranel whispered. People like humans, Jake confirmed. Kethvar activated his communication device and contacted his ship. Prepare a priority transmission to the Galactic Alliance, full diplomatic authority. He turned back to the humans. Commander Martinez, on behalf of the Galactic Alliance, I would like to formally invite humanity to join our organization, not as a protected junior member, but as a full partner with all rights and responsibilities. What would that involve? Jake asked. Mutual defense agreements, trade partnerships, cultural exchange, Kethavar explained. And when the galaxy faces threats that our conventional forces cannot handle, we would call upon human expertise and adaptability. You want us to be the galaxy's emergency response team, Steve said with a grin. In simple terms, yes, Uranel replied. When the impossible happens, when all hope seems lost, when no solution exists, we need people who specialize in making the impossible possible. Dr. Webb looked thoughtful. There are probably millions of species out there who could benefit from human medicine, human engineering, human problem-solving approaches. And there are probably threats out there that we haven't even imagined yet, Jake added. Having allies with advanced technology and scientific knowledge would certainly help us help them. Captain Alex Turner's voice came over the communication system. Commander Martinez, we're receiving new orders from Earth Command. They want to establish our first interstellar defense fleet immediately. Jake smiled. Looks like Earth agrees with the plan. He stood up and extended his hand to Kethvar. Ambassador, humanity accepts your invitation to join the Galactic Alliance. As they shook hands, Uranel was already updating her scientific records. Species, human. Classification, friendly death worlders. Threat level, absolute. Survival. Capability, beyond measurement. Recommendation, ally with immediately. Warning, never underestimate their ability to survive what should be impossible. She paused and added one final note. Additional observation, they appear to enjoy facing impossible odds. Suggest providing them with challenging problems to keep them entertained. Kethavar read the report and laughed, a sound like metal wind chimes. I think this is the beginning of a very interesting partnership. Just wait until you meet the rest of humanity, Jake said with a grin. We're just getting started. Outside the conference room windows, stars stretched to infinity. Somewhere, among them were threats that could destroy civilizations, challenges that would test the limits of possibility, and problems that would require every ounce of human stubbornness to solve. The galaxy had just gained its most unlikely and most capable guardians. And those guardians were already looking forward to whatever impossible task came next. After all, humans had been doing the impossible their entire existence. It was just what they did.